Nobody tells you this when you turn 60, but the muscles you have right now are not simply getting older, they are getting quieter. And quiet muscles are the beginning of a story most people never see coming. Not a story about gym memberships or protein shakes, a story about fruit. 10 specific fruits that researchers, longevity scientists, and sports medicine doctors are beginning to look at very differently when it comes to people over 60. Not because fruit is new, but because what these fruits do inside the aging body, specifically inside aging muscle tissue, is something most people have never been told. And I mean that precisely. The mechanism is not what you think. It is not about carbohydrates. It is not about vitamins in the way you learned about them in school. It is about something happening at a cellular level that begins to go wrong after 60, something that the right fruits can quietly begin to reverse. Stay with me, because by the time we reach fruit number 7, something is going to click that changes the way you look at the produce section forever. First, let us talk about what is actually happening to your muscles after 60, because the story most people are told is incomplete. The standard explanation is sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle mass and strength that begins in your 30s and accelerates after 60. Most doctors frame it as inevitable. Most people accept it. But here is what the standard explanation leaves out. Muscle loss after 60 is not primarily about muscle cells dying. It is about muscle cells becoming unable to respond to the signals that tell them to grow and repair. The signal is still being sent. The muscle is just no longer listening. This phenomenon has a name: anabolic resistance. And it is the real reason why older adults can eat the same amount of protein as younger adults and still lose muscle, because the protein signal is not getting through. The cells have gone quiet. Now here is why this matters for everything we are about to discuss. The fruits on this list do not work by simply providing nutrients. They work by addressing the specific biological conditions that cause anabolic resistance: inflammation, oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, and impaired blood flow. They are not feeding your muscles. They are waking them up. And the first fruit on this list does something so targeted to this problem that when researchers first saw the data, they ran the study again to make sure. Fruit number 1 is tart cherries, not sweet cherries, not cherry juice cocktail. Tart cherries, specifically the Montmorency variety. Here is why they matter for muscle recovery in a way that is almost pharmacological. After the age of 60, your muscles take longer to recover from any physical stress, even walking, gardening, or climbing stairs. This delayed recovery is largely driven by exercise-induced muscle damage, triggering an inflammatory response that, in older adults, stays elevated far longer than it should. Tart cherries contain one of the highest concentrations of anthocyanins of any fruit on earth. Anthocyanins are the compounds that give them their deep red color, and they are also among the most potent natural anti-inflammatory molecules ever studied. In clinical trials involving adults over 60, consuming tart cherry juice for 7 days before and 2 days after moderate exercise reduced muscle soreness by up to 34% and accelerated strength recovery compared to placebo. But here is what most people miss about tart cherries. The benefit is not just pain relief. When inflammation is chronically elevated in aging muscle, a state researchers call inflammaging, it directly suppresses the anabolic signaling pathways we just talked about. Tart cherries do not just make your muscles feel better. They remove one of the primary barriers to muscle repair. They quiet the inflammatory noise so the growth signal can finally be heard. The second fruit surprises almost everyone. Watermelon, not for its vitamins, not for its hydration, though that matters too, for a compound called L-citrulline and what it does to blood flow inside aging muscle tissue. As we age, the inner lining of our blood vessels, the endothelium, becomes less efficient at producing nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the molecule that tells blood vessels to relax and dilate. When nitric oxide production drops, blood flow to muscles decreases. Less blood flow means less oxygen, less glucose, less amino acid delivery to the muscle cells that need them most. L-citrulline is converted in the kidneys into arginine, which then drives nitric oxide production. And watermelon is the richest dietary source of L-citrulline that exists. Studies in older adults show that L-citrulline supplementation improves muscle oxygenation and reduces the oxygen cost of exercise, meaning muscles work more efficiently with less strain. But here is the twist. The rind of watermelon contains even higher concentrations of L-citrulline than the flesh. Most people throw it away. The part with the greatest vascular benefit ends up in the compost bin. Fruit number 3 is kiwi, and the reason it earns its place on this list has nothing to do with vitamin C, though. That matters. It has to do with sleep. And sleep, it turns out, may be the most underrated variable in muscle recovery after 60. Here is something most people do not know. The majority of muscle protein synthesis, the actual rebuilding of muscle fibers, occurs during deep sleep, driven by the nightly surge of growth hormone. After 60, both the depth of sleep and the amplitude of that growth hormone surge decline significantly. Poor sleep does not just make you tired, it makes your muscles recover slower, rebuild less, and weaken faster. Kiwi contains natural serotonin precursors and a flavonoid called naringenin that appear to improve both sleep onset and sleep quality. In a randomized controlled trial, adults who ate 2 kiwis 1 hour before bed for 4 weeks fell asleep 35% faster and slept 13% longer than the control group. Better sleep means more nightly growth hormone. More growth hormone means more muscle protein synthesis while you rest. Kiwi is not directly feeding your muscles. It is optimizing the window during which your muscles rebuild themselves, and that distinction matters more than most people realize. Fruit number 4 is pineapple, and this one works through a mechanism that sounds almost too specific to be true. Pineapple is the only significant dietary source of an enzyme called bromelain. Bromelain is a proteolytic enzyme, meaning it breaks down proteins, but inside the human body, it does something remarkable. It reduces fibrin formation in damaged muscle tissue. When muscles are stressed or micro-damaged through activity, the body produces fibrin as part of the inflammatory response. In young muscles, fibrin is cleared quickly. In aging muscles, fibrin can accumulate, forming microscopic adhesions in the muscle tissue that restrict range of motion, cause stiffness, and slow the repair process. Bromelain from pineapple acts as a natural fibrinolytic agent, breaking down those adhesions, reducing swelling, and accelerating tissue repair. Athletes have used it for decades, but for seniors experiencing chronic muscle stiffness and slow recovery, the mechanism is even more relevant. The catch is that bromelain is most concentrated in the core of the pineapple, the fibrous centerpiece most people discard. Once again, the most valuable part ends up in the trash. Fruit number 5 is one that most people do not think of as a fruit at all. Avocado, and the reason it belongs on this list is not the healthy fat. Though that matters, it is the leucine content. Leucine is the most critical amino acid for triggering muscle protein synthesis. It is the key that turns on the TOR pathway, the master switch for muscle growth. After 60, the threshold of leucine required to trigger that switch actually rises. Older muscles require more leucine per meal to activate the same anabolic response as younger muscles. Avocado provides leucine alongside something most foods cannot offer alongside it, monounsaturated fat. And that combination matters because dietary fat slows gastric emptying, meaning the leucine from avocado enters the bloodstream more gradually and sustains the anabolic signal for longer. A slow, sustained leucine rise is more effective at driving muscle protein synthesis than a rapid spike that clears quickly. But there is something else avocado does that connects to a problem almost every person over 60 has, whether they know it or not. It is rich in glutathione precursors, specifically the building blocks your cells use to manufacture their primary antioxidant defense. And oxidative stress in aging muscle is one of the key drivers of the mitochondrial dysfunction that accelerates muscle loss. We are going to come back to mitochondria in a moment, because what the next fruit does to the mitochondria in aging muscle cells is one of the most extraordinary findings in the entire field of muscle aging science. Fruit number 6 is pomegranate. And this is where the science gets genuinely remarkable. Pomegranate contains a compound called urolithin A, or more precisely, the gut bacteria in some people can convert pomegranate selagitinins into urolithin A, and urolithin A does something no other natural compound has been shown to do as clearly. It triggers mitophagy. Mitophagy is the process by which cells identify damaged, dysfunctional mitochondria and recycle them. Think of it as cellular housekeeping for your energy factories. As we age, damaged mitochondria accumulate in muscle cells. They produce less energy, generate more reactive oxygen species, and impair the cell's ability to contract and repair. The accumulation of these dysfunctional mitochondria is now considered one of the primary cellular mechanisms of age-related muscle loss. Urolithin A clears them out. In a 2019 clinical trial, older adults who received urolithin A showed significant improvements in muscle endurance and mitochondrial gene expression compared to placebo without any change in exercise habits. The muscles improved because the cellular environment inside them improved. But here is the important caveat. Not everyone's gut bacteria can convert pomegranate compounds into urolithin A. Studies suggest only about 40% of people have the right microbiome composition to produce it efficiently. The other 60% may need urolithin A as a direct supplement. But eating pomegranate also feeds the gut bacteria that produce it, meaning regular consumption may gradually shift your microbiome toward better conversion over time. And pomegranate has other benefits for aging muscle that do not depend on urolithin A at all, including potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects from its punicalagins. It is a fruit that works on multiple levels simultaneously. Fruit number 7 is one you already eat, but not the way you should. Banana, and the part of the banana story that most people never hear is about the timing. Bananas are one of the few fruits that provide rapidly available carbohydrates alongside a meaningful amount of potassium, magnesium, and vitamin B6, a combination that is almost uniquely suited to the post-exercise recovery window. After any physical activity, your muscles enter a state of elevated insulin sensitivity that lasts approximately 30 to 60 minutes. During this window, glucose and amino acids are absorbed into muscle cells at a dramatically higher rate than at any other time. A banana eaten during this window delivers fast carbohydrates that replenish muscle glycogen in the stored fuel your muscles need for their next effort. But the B6 in banana is doing something separate. And equally important, vitamin B6 is required for the metabolism of amino acids, particularly for the transamination reactions that allow your body to use dietary protein for muscle repair. Without adequate B6, protein eaten after exercise is metabolized less efficiently, and B6 deficiency in adults over 60 is significantly more common than most doctors routinely check for. A banana in the recovery window is not just a snack. It is a metabolic key inserted at precisely the right moment. Fruit number 8 is papaya, and this one is about absorption. Here is the problem no one tells seniors about protein digestion. After 60, stomach acid production declines, pancreatic enzyme output declines. The entire digestive machinery becomes less efficient, which means that even if you are eating adequate protein, you may be absorbing significantly less of it than you think. Papaya contains an enzyme called papain, a powerful proteolytic enzyme that pre-digests protein in the gut, breaking peptide bonds and improving amino acid availability. Adding papaya to a protein-containing meal or eating it shortly after can meaningfully improve how much of that protein actually reaches your muscles. But papain also does something at the intestinal level that connects to a broader issue in aging. It reduces intestinal permeability, the low-grade leakiness of the gut lining that contributes to systemic inflammation in older adults. And as we established with tart cherries, systemic inflammation directly suppresses muscle anabolism. Papaya is working upstream, improving the gut environment that determines how efficiently every other nutrient in your diet actually gets used. Fruit number 9 is one you have heard is healthy, but not for the reason that matters most for muscle. Blueberries. Everyone knows blueberries are antioxidant rich, but the specific mechanism that matters for aging muscle is something called the NRF2 pathway. NRF2 is a transcription factor, a master regulator that turns on the genes responsible for your cell's own antioxidant defense systems. The pterostilbene and anthocyanins in blueberries activate NRF2 in muscle cells. When NRF2 is activated, your muscle cells begin producing more of their own superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione, the 3 primary antioxidant enzymes that protect mitochondria from oxidative damage. Blueberries are not bringing antioxidants to your muscles. They are teaching your muscle cells to protect themselves. That distinction is important because exogenous antioxidants, the kind you eat, cannot penetrate every cellular compartment. The antioxidants your cells make themselves can. In studies specifically involving older adults, blueberry consumption for 6 weeks before and after eccentric exercise, the type that causes the most muscle damage, significantly reduced markers of oxidative stress and accelerated functional recovery. The muscles did not just hurt less, they recovered measurably faster. And fruit number 10, the one that closes the loop on everything we have discussed, is one most people in Western countries have never seriously considered as a health food: guava. Guava has more vitamin C per gram than any other commonly consumed fruit, more than oranges, more than kiwi, and vitamin C, in the context of aging muscle, is not just an immune nutrient. It is an essential cofactor in collagen synthesis. Here is why that matters for muscle. Muscles do not exist in isolation. They are supported by connective tissue, fascia, tendons, and the extracellular matrix that surrounds each muscle fiber. In people over 60, the degradation of this connective tissue framework accelerates. Tendons become stiffer, fascial layers lose elasticity, and the extracellular matrix that scaffolds muscle fibers becomes disorganized. This is part of why older adults feel stiff, why range of motion decreases, and why muscle force transmission becomes inefficient. Vitamin C is required for the hydroxylation of proline and lysine, the chemical reactions that form stable collagen triple helices. Without adequate vitamin C, new collagen cannot be properly formed. Guava delivers this vitamin C alongside flavonoids that further enhance collagen cross-linking and antioxidant activity. And here is the timing insight that most people miss. The optimal time to consume vitamin C for connective tissue benefit is approximately 30 to 60 minutes before exercise, when collagen synthesis rates in tendons and fascia are highest in response to the pre-exercise stimulus. Guava eaten before a morning walk, a swim, or a light workout is not the same as guava eaten at any random time. Timing transforms the biological impact. Now pull back and look at what these 10 fruits are doing together, because there is a system here that is more coherent than it might appear. Tart cherries and blueberries are addressing inflammation and oxidative stress, the environmental conditions that suppress muscle repair. Watermelon and pomegranate are addressing blood flow and mitochondrial function, the energy infrastructure that makes muscle contraction and recovery possible. Kiwi is addressing sleep, the nightly window in which the majority of muscle rebuilding actually occurs. Pineapple and papaya are addressing the enzymatic and digestive conditions that determine how efficiently protein and nutrients reach damaged tissue. Avocado and banana are addressing the leucine threshold, the recovery window, and the amino acid metabolism that drives protein synthesis directly. And guava is addressing the connective tissue scaffolding that determines how efficiently force is transmitted through muscle. Each fruit is targeting a different bottleneck in the same process. And when you address multiple bottlenecks simultaneously, the result is not additive, it is synergistic. The system works because it is complete. Here is the shift I want you to make as you walk away from this. Stop thinking about food as fuel. Fuel is passive. Fuel sits in a tank until you need it. The fruits we have talked about today are not passive, they are signaling molecules, enzyme modulators, mitochondrial regulators, and gene expression activators. They are not feeding your muscles, they are speaking to them. And after 60, when your muscles have gone quieter than they used to be, that distinction is everything. Because the question is no longer, can I rebuild muscle after 60? The science is clear, you can. The real question, the one researchers are only beginning to fully answer, is what else inside the aging body is still listening, and how far that conversation can actually go.